You know what, I have to say, I'm really glad that I live on this planet Earth, because if there is one thing certain in Doctor Who, it's that parallel Earths will be destroyed. With that cheerful notion in mind, I'm Sean Ferrick for Who Culture, and here are the 10 darkest alternate timelines in Doctor Who. Number 10. The Year That Never Was, Last of the Time Lords. Planet Earth is basically a constant battleground in the Doctor Who universe, and at the end of Series 3, this resulted in the Master seizing control, ruling the planet with an iron fist, and creating a timeline that came to be known as the Year That Never Was. This nightmarish 12-month period, which began when the Master hijacked the Doctor's TARDIS, travelled back to the 21st century and became Prime Minister of Britain, as you do, involved 1/10 of humanity being straight up killed by the Toclophane. The rest of humanity was enslaved. The Doctor was captured by the Master and, embarrassingly, was locked in a birdcage, and normal life came to screeching halt. The one glimmer of hope came in the form of Martha Jones. Her determination and strong will allowed her to help the Doctor rise to full strength, and in turn, he was able to bring the Master's dictatorship to an end. Time was reversed, and the year that never was, well, it never was. Number 9. Humanity evolves into Hemowares, the Curse of Fenric. Spooky 7th Doctor serial, The Curse of Fenric, introduced the Hemowares, monstrous vampiric creatures who enjoy snacking on human blood. These creatures are clearly quite humanoid in their overall appearance, and this is no coincidence. It's because, in one possible timeline, these Hemowares are what humanity will ultimately evolve into. In The Curse of Fenric, Fenric's evil plan is to poison the world with a dangerous toxin. If he is successful, then this planet-wide pollution will destroy humanity, and, in 500,000 years, humans will have fully transformed into Hemowares. However, after Fenric was defeated by his Hemoware ally, this possible future didn't come to pass. Planet-wide destruction causing a possible future where humanity turns into bloodthirsty beasts was something that New Who episode Orphan 55 also explored, only, in that case, the cause was global warming, not a deadly toxin. Number 8. Earth is destroyed by a deadly bacteria, the pyramid at the end of the world. Considering recent global events, this episode now hits a little differently, doesn't it? In Season 10's The Pyramid at the End of the World, the middle chapter of the Monk trilogy, the Earth stares down the barrel of a potential timeline in which the entire planet is destroyed by a lethal bacteria. The mysterious monks give the 12th Doctor a brief glimpse of this possible future, showing him barren forest, wrecked buildings, floods and fires, and most distressingly of all, absolutely no signs of life. Being as stubborn as he is, though, the Doctor doesn't just accept this impending devastation. Rather, he sets out to find the source of the bacteria, which turns out to be a lab located in Yorkshire, and burns it to the ground before it can spread, because nothing is more effective at preventing a pandemic than a massive explosion, right? Number 7. The Tricksters World, The Temptation of Sarah Jane Smith. Due to him only appearing in the Sarah Jane adventures, the time-meddling trickster is a villain that doesn't get as much attention as he deserves. He's incredibly powerful and deliciously devious, and his cunning nature was on full display in The Temptation of Sarah Jane Smith, where he created an alternate timeline in which the Earth was reduced to a wasteland. The trickster was able to do this when Sarah Jane altered a past event, namely, she prevented the deaths of her mother and father. This essentially broke time, allowing the trickster to move in and manipulate reality however he pleased. In the trickster's world, the vast majority of humans are dead, and a few remaining survivors have been enslaved. London has been completely destroyed, and it's safe to assume that most countries and cities have been left in a similar state. Much like Rose Tyler accepting her father's death in the Doctor Who episode Father's Day, the Trickster's world is eliminated when Sarah Jane accepts her parents' deaths, and the original timeline, thankfully, is restored. Number 6. The Daleks invade Earth. Day of the Daleks. The Daleks have tried to take over the Earth on several occasions, but in an alternate future seen in the 1972 serial Day of the Daleks, they were actually successful. This future was born out of a complicated sequence of events. The Controller tells the 3rd Doctor that a series of wars broke out toward the end of the 20th century, resulting in 100 years of murder and destruction. A staggering 7/8 of the Earth's population was wiped out. With the planet in such a messy, vulnerable state, the Daleks, ruthless as they are, saw an opportunity to invade, and naturally, they seized it. Their ultimate goal was to mine the Earth for any and all valuable materials, which they would then use to expand the Dalek Empire. However, when the Doctor managed to stop this future from happening, the villainous tin cans were prevented from asserting their merciless dominance over our little blue planet. Number 5. The Doctor dies and the world falls apart. Turn left. The Turn Left timeline is another example of Earth suffering large amounts of damage, but unlike the year that never was, or the viral doom foretold by the monks, this reality is much worse due to one huge factor: the death of the Doctor. accidentally drowning himself while battling the Empress of the Rachnos, Turn Left shows us, in great detail, what a doctorless planet Earth would look like, and needless to say, it ain't good. He isn't around to stop Miss Foster and her adipose children, and as a result, millions of Americans are killed. The space Titanic crashes into London, completely annihilating the city. The Torchwood team then dies in an attempt to stop the Sontarans, and later, England is in such a catastrophic state that non-English citizens are carted off to labour camps. The horrified look on Wilf's face truly conveys the hopelessness of the situation. If not for Donna's brave sacrifice, which reset the timeline and allowed her to save the Doctor from his watery demise, things would have continued to worsen. Number 4. All of history occurs at once, the wedding of River Song. Series 6 finale, The Wedding of River Song, depicts one of the most bizarre alternate timelines we've ever seen in the show, one in which all of history occurs at once. This means that random events, people and technology from throughout Earth's history are all existing simultaneously. There's an old-fashioned steam train running through central London, Charles Dickens is being interviewed on television, and Winston Churchill is referred to as the Holy Roman Emperor. This timeline originated from River Song's refusal to kill the Doctor, an act which altered a fixed point in time. The Doctor notes that reality is fatally compromised and that eventually everything will simply fall apart. Doom is inevitable. Luckily then, River eventually accepts that she has to murder her husband, who it turns out is actually a life-size robot piloted by miniature people. Because why not? Number 3. Earth is swallowed by the Eye of Harmony, the TV movie. In the 1996 TV movie, the Master's latest evil scheme gives us a quick glimpse of a possible timeline in which the entire planet is swallowed by the Eye of Harmony, which is basically the TARDIS's power source. Earlier in the story, the Doctor worriedly informs Grace that if the eye is enclosed, then the Earth will be sucked through it, and that's exactly what happens during the climactic showdown between the Doctor and the Master. Here, we're shown various Earth landmarks being swallowed into the sky, including Stonehenge, the Eiffel Tower, and the Statue of Liberty. That's one way to defeat a giant weeping angel. Fortunately though, the entire event is later undone when time is reversed, and as an added bonus, it's actually the Master who ends up being gobbled by the Eye. Serves the bugger right. Number 2. The Great Intelligence negates the Doctor's victories, the name of the Doctor. In terms of preserving life and ensuring that the bad guys can't run rampant, the Doctor is surely the most important figure in the Whoniverse. If all those victories were somehow erased, it would be a dark day for the universe indeed. So it's quite unfortunate that this is exactly what happens in the Season 7 finale, The Name of the Doctor, with the powerful Great Intelligence scattering its rather nasty self throughout the Doctor's timeline. This allows the Great Intelligence to turn every single one of the Doctor's victories into failures. We see the villain encounter several classic Doctors as the 11th Doctor in the present lies on the floor screaming in agony. Almost immediately, several core star systems disappear from the sky. Strax turns hostile, Jenny is wiped from existence, and the Doctor's past selves are killed. We only get a brief glimpse of this Doctorless reality before Clara sacrifices herself to undo the Great Intelligence's meddling. But a brief glimpse was all it took to show us that a universe without the Doctor would totally suck. Number 1. The universe is destroyed. The Pandorica opens. Humanity evolving into monsters and the Earth being turned into a wasteland are both devastating outcomes, but it doesn't really get much worse than the entire universe coming to an end. Matt Smith's brilliant first series as the 11th Doctor was full of wonder, laughs and heart, and it was definitely a few shades lighter in tone than the preceding David Tennant years. Despite this, the 13-episode run concluded with one of the darkest events in the history of the show, with the universe being blown to smithereens following the destruction of the TARDIS. And, just for added bleakness, Amy was shot dead by an Auton version of Rory. The Doctor was locked in a supposedly inescapable prison, the Pandorica, and River was trapped inside the aforementioned exploding TARDIS. Not good. The following episode then picks up in the Eye of the Storm, with the Doctor and his remaining allies watching everything around them fade out of existence. It's incredibly dark stuff, and while the normal timeline is ultimately restored, the image of silence falling across the universe as countless stars go supernova is, to this day, the most jaw-dropping cliffhanger that Modern Who has ever delivered. That's everything for our list today. If you reckon we missed anything, please let us know in the comments below. Remember that you can find us over on Twitter at WhoCulture. You can find myself at Sean Ferrick as well. Whether the universe is fading out of existence or it's just a deadly bacteria in the air, look after yourself, look after your friends and family, keep things wibbly wobbly.